Hey folks, it's Brian. We play Elderath on Saturday night, and I noticed that I'm going to need a new bookshelf soon. Anyway, back to the game. So our GM, we use Owlbear Rodeo for our VTT, and it has a new app for calendars. Since we created the calendar for his world because it's unique, and we were discussing because I try to track the time mostly because Wes has been, practicing so that he can get his dexterity up, which he was successful at, and now he's working on his strength. But anyway, as we were discussing the dates, it turns out that I was off. I gave him bad gouge on what day we were actually starting on with this session. But anyway, so we are approaching the island. There are lights from the village. To the east and southeast, there are clouds, thick rain clouds with lightning. Right at about where those vortex areas are. There are longships in the harbor. They could be the ones that we saw back at the fleet. We're tailing the fleet. So we plan to fly in. Ooh, that is not what I want. Plan to fly in at night with the shade spell cast on. We have Runt just keep the ship near the village in the air so that we can go and investigate. And we discuss the various options we have for Mad Eye, and we eventually remembered, oh, that's right, we're going to turn him into the Baron for justice. So we discussed plans on rescuing the girl, and at what height we're going to have the ship flying, and can we use the sensors to keep us safe and going in the right direction because there's mountains, because we're going around the other side from up the river, and there's a forest and that kind of stuff, right? So Raymond has this new theory that Elderath is a prison planet, and the demons within the gates are actually prison guards. And they threw us into this cell when the gate we went through on the moon was disrupted, destroyed, thrown off. Anyway, just some ideas going around in people's heads. Raymond decides to take a look at the vortex through the multivisor telescope while we're at altitude. I don't recall him getting anything really new about that. Okay, so the village is on the northern side of the river. I thought it was on the southern myself, but it's on the northern side of the river, just outside the forest. Okay, so we can use the shade spell to hide the ship once we're near the village, right? And we kind of, go down Wes and Hjalmar, rappel off, and then, bring the ship up to tree bushy height, right? So that somebody just in the distance looking, it's dark, they just see more stuff out there, figuring it's just treetops. That was my idea. So we sneak through some of the forest line. There's a row of trees. We sneak past there. We get down by the river bank. So we got the slapping water to help mask our sounds, right? And we got um, um, shade. Yeah, shade cast on us as well, so it increases our hide percentage and our sneak percentage. And we tiptoe along, get down towards there, because there's a big longhouse by the docks. We're kind of figuring that might be the place, right? So we get there, and as we're checking out the longhouse, Wes hears someone. He goes to investigate. It's just somebody relieving themselves. But he also spots this statue at the crossroads. It's all overgrown. Okay, so go back and check out the building some more. It appears to be a warehouse on this southernish or southeast side. But Hjalmar hears some activity inside. So we take another peek through these shuttered windows, trying to get a good look. And so, okay, this is a warehouse, but there's crates, ad hoc storage, bags, like I said. But on the north side of it is an actual tavern. There are people in there drinking and gambling and such. And someone comes out and heads north up the road. So once they're out of sight, Hjalmar and Wes go and check out the statue. It's not a Viking statue. It has a very large shield. It's heater shaped, but is large because heaters are only so big, right? And its left hand's on top of it. It's all covered with weeds. So Hjalmar starts pulling weeds off and stuff, and there's elvish writing on it. And there's a medallion around the statue's neck that has the symbol of Sylvanus on it. And the statue's got these pointy ears like an elf. So this is either an elf worshipping Sylvanus elf worshipping. This is either the elf worshipping Sylvanus or the some elf that is worshiping Sylvanus. There we go. Or an ancient rendition of the god Sylvanus that has those elvish features like we found in the underwater temple. So we go back trying to figure out what to do when a guard and his dog come walking by. It took Wes like 4 or 5 times to actually get the dog asleep. The guy went to sleep right away. But once the dog went to sleep, we went and took them back towards the ship. We tied the dog up inside the forest, tied up and knocked out the guy, and took him up to the ship for interrogation. We find out that there is this little hut that's on the north side of the village. That's where Mad Eye lives, is a single building. And the girl was sold to the clan head and is working in the tavern. Who would know? Okay, so Raymond's not able to decipher the elvish runes. Oh, so while the interrogation is going on, Raymond and Wes go back so that Raymond can try and decipher the elvish runes. And Wes, at that point, brought his book along so he could copy those down. And he does this listen spell into the tavern, but all he ever hears is two gambling and drinking. So Raymond and Wes back to the ship. We find out, okay, so that's Mad Eye's house. The girl was sold. Okay, Wes kind of thinking, are we gonna burn the house down? But we didn't. But okay, we need to get the girl. So Hjalmar and Wes head back to the tavern. And Wes, peeking in, casts sleep 10, sleep 10, sleep 10, sleep 5, until he finally got everybody down. So they sneak in, they're searching for the girl. They find 3 of them. They're chained to a ring in the floor, and some crates have been made into beds. So we quietly wake them. Come on. Unlock their chains, and tiptoe out. We get them to the ship, and then we let the guard down, put him with his dog, and put them both asleep. And then we head out. So, on our way to Kars, we run into the sea serpent, of all things, south of the island of Marxliar, something like that. But we take altitude and continue on, because we tried to fight this thing before, and there's nothing we can do to it. Okay, and at this point, we have tripped the calendar. We're now in month 4, which is Lorvain, the beginning of summer, week 1. As we're leaving the islands, getting to Kars. Actually, we're coming in outside of Kars. We have our villa. It's up the river. And it's fairly close to the coast. So we're coming in this direction to the coast. Where we're going to park the ship kind of thing. Well, we're going to go on land and park the ship. But anyway, we got this like a week to converse with the girls. They're all 3 are very ecstatic to be rescued. I was grateful to be reunited with her mother. Hjalmar or Raymond, one of the 2, describe the statue, ask about the statue, and the description prompts response from the girls of that woman and her spider ship. That one spoke with the clan head, and then most of the girls that had been captured altogether were gone the next day. Slaved off with the spider ship. These 3 were the ones left. Okay, so... Oh, there was, at this point also, with all this downtime, traveling across the ocean, there's discussions on things that we remember, right? And Wes has the longest memory of the Far Horizons campaign. And so I left up to the GM to do his data dump of stuff. Everything that he can remember, right? There's a reference to the Goblin, which is the ship from Mars that has the artificial intelligence computer. And that's a reference point that intersects with Raymond's story. And there's another crossover point at New Delhi with Runt, although we didn't cross paths. We were both in New Delhi at the same time. He's doing corporate espionage for the CSA, but something went bad. You see, he ended up hiding out in the stacks. And the stacks are, cargo containers that are, welded together, making little apartments. Kind of like in Ready Player One, we got all the trailers. Same idea. Okay, so Not a good place though, right? Not good. And it's kind of funny that Runt sees parallels between his current life and his previous life, and Raymond has some parallels between his life and his previous life, but Wes doesn't really have any parallels between the two. He was rolling that 98% on his social standing that kind of got in the way. Okay, so the ancient war between Maliki's people was won, but the repercussions are still being dealt with. The smoking people that can possess people, um, which is what got Wes enlisted in with Maliki, is to help her fight these smoky people. They are reminiscent of those demons in the gateways. And there's discussion about asteroid belts being the remnants of planets that the ancients, planets of the ancients, not apes, ancients, that had been destroyed by this planet gun, the toroid planet with the center moon, which Wes made a comment point about this planet. It's just a gun. What? What are you talking about? So we had to go this whole thing about the toroid and how it's hollow and all kinds of stuff. Okay, so we're coming towards the villa from the east. We set down, we unload, and Runt takes the ship back out. And while he's out there, he's experimenting with the ship systems and pretending that he's not on some black backwater planet. And we drop the girls off at the villa and spend the night. The next day, we take Mad Eye to Karst to see the Chamberlain. It's a bit of a wait, but he does see us, that day kind of thing, which is always a good deal. And he comes to see, we're sent to wait for him in the gardens. And the Chamberlain asks about living family members who have to be made available to the court to testify. We tell him, hey, they're at our villa, and he said he will have a summons sent when it's time. So then we head over to the Mages Guild when Raymond sees a well-dressed man with a very heavy-laden purse who's being relieved of said purse by a greasy-haired boy who actually looks right at Raymond and then darts off into an alley. Raymond chases after him, as does Hjalmar. Wes kind of stays back, explains what's going on. Raymond and Hjalmar follow the boy into a dead end, but they see this dark patch of shadow on the wall shrinking as they get there, and there's no sign of the boy. The guards eventually show up, and they mention that this is not the first time something like this has occurred, and it's not just for money, but almost anything. In fact, one of the guards talks about how a person had a stalk of celery stolen, but the person just disappeared through a magic gate kind of thing. So we continue on to the Mages Guild, and we tell Thurman that we have returned with the ship, and what's the best way for him to see it without attracting attention. He says, it's been a while since I've been out to the villa, so in a couple days I'll come out to visit. And then we ask, hey, what does the guild know about all these crimes? They're using gates for an escape. And he says, what do you mean? I haven't heard any of this. So Raymond describes the situation. And we have Thurman read our Elvish runes from Wes's book. And it's a oath of sorts, a knightly oath, right? It talks about righteousness, being able to make correct decisions, and something other about courage, and not only physical courage, but mental. Should be moral courage. Benevolence, it's compassion. And as a true knight, something. I only got bits and pieces of it. I asked the DM to actually send me the actual words so I can put it in here. Respect is shown through goodly manners, honesty, being truthful, and a true warrior must, always be truthful. Honors one's dignity to oneself and to others, and a true warrior will, Loyalty is fidelity to oneself and to one's superiors and family, and a true warrior must always be loyal to the death. That kind of stuff, right? So it kind of sounds like a Sylvanus kind of thing, maybe. Definitely paladinish. Yeah, whatever. But it's either an ancient statue of the ancient version of the gods that had the elvish features, or it's an elf who's actually worshipping Sylvanus. So we're not sure what's really going on just yet. So we go off to the Temple of Lorath, The high priestess calls a meeting. Krim is there. So Wes wanders over, says hi. And they tell us that Hedda made contact with Lynn. Lynn stopped by the village to see how the seeds had been doing. And she was very pleased with that, and then moved on to colder climes. The temple's access to these colder climes has been overrun. Troops have come through the mountains. Drake, men, orcs, and spiders have taken control of the Valley of Chaos, or whatever we call it. And Raymond kind of mentioned, hey, we do have a key, and we have knowledge of other gates, so there might be ways we can, reconnect everybody together. And it looks like the keep in the borderlands is ready to expand south and to the east towards Lodash. Hjalmar describes the statue in the Oath. Raymond, well, he did his best. Raymond uses lore magic to actually recall it correctly. The High Priestess looks at Krim, and Krim says there's a library in the temple below that had been uncovered when Lynn had arrived. And Lynn has helped expand the borders of the breathable area down below. The materials are old and in bad shape, but there's a code very similar to this that is there. So obviously this takes further investigation. It seems to point to an order of paladins who served Sylvanus. Hjalmar offers to help regain access to the temple and offers his sword. The library's books that they found so far have all been in Elvish, so then we will need some assistance with that. Okay, it turns out, and I completely forgot about this, that the church here, Church of Elderath here, has a book with the spell defense spells in it, and Raymond asks to be able to borrow it, and so it's given to him for his use. Rescue of the slaves is of value to the church, for which the High Priestess rewards us with 30 gold, which all gets put into the villa repairs. Hjalmar then goes to the Church of Sylvanus to speak with his priest, and he discusses that shield oath thing, and that priest does not recognize that. And the priest actually offers up that the elves were at one point in league with Forg, and that an oath for a cult worshipping Forg masquerading as Sylvanus is probably what that is. Stay away from that. Okay, so while Hjalmar goes to pray to Sylvanus, he has a vision of a warrior like that of the statue who's fighting against a darkness, a shadowy, amorphous form. Meanwhile, Wes is schmoozing with Kim in the garden. They both meet each other. There's lots of chit-chat, some details of adventures, and Wes specifically drops in some tech terms, which allows for Krim, which I had completely forgot about, to have a further awakening roll, which I rolled 4 and rolled a 13, so she regained another memory, but has not fully awakened. And Wes is, trying to help her along with that kind of thing. Getting through that whole, where am I, what's going on, why am I trying to do this, how do I know this stuff? But then she goes to make preparations, because she and 5 warriors are going to come out and be guards for the ship so that we can leave the ship without us, but under guard, so it's protected, because in general we're very paranoid that the lords in the area, the Baron specifically, is going to claim it for himself, since it was found in his territories, kind of thing. But Wes has already claimed for the Lords of Bloodstone, and the Lords of Bloodstone are high lords everywhere, right? So while Wes is schmoozing, Raymond heads to the Golden Lion, and then Wes heads to the Golden Lion, and then eventually Hjalmar shows up at the Golden Lion. We'll have dinner and spend the night. The next day we're off to the villa. The day after that, Thurmont arrives, as does Krim and her forces, but at separate times. Runt shows up with the ship, late, very, very, very late. He's been messing with drugs. He's in fact gotten addicted to something. And when he's dealing with us, he's acting all pissy and angry. He picks a fight with Hjalmar, so Wes ends up doing this misty slumber thing on the two of them until they get pass out. But Runt does get a few good punches in on Hjalmar while they're fighting. Hjalmar was just doing grapple stuff. I just want to hold him, freeze him, get him out of control kind of stuff. And that's how the session ended. Whew! Lots happening. Happy gaming.